Here is a very fashionable episode. Your morning letters, if I remember right, were from a fishmonger and a tide waiter.
Yes, my correspondence has certainly charm of variety, and the humbler are usually more interesting. Oh, come, it may prove to be something of interest after all.
Not social, then?
No, distinctly professional.
And from a noble client.
One of the highest in England.
My dear fellow, I congratulate you.
I assure you, Watson, without affectation, that the status of my client is a matter of the less moment to me than the interest of his case. You've been reading the papers diligently of late, have you not?
It looks like it. I have had nothing else to do.
If you have followed recent events so closely, you must have read about Lord St. Simon and his wedding.
Oh, yes, with the deepest interest.
That's well. The letter which I hold in my hand is from Lord St. Simon. I will read it to you, and in return you must turn over these papers and let me have whatever bees up in the matter.
A marriage has been arranged, it says, and will, if rumor is correct, very shortly take place between Lord Robert St. Simon, second son of the Duke of Balmoral, and Miss Hetty Doran, the only daughter of Aloysius Doran, San Francisco, called USA. There was a paragraph amplifying this in one of the society papers of the same week. Oh, here it is. They except discuss the trend of American heiresses marrying British noblemen for financial gain. It mentions Lord St. Simon's upcoming marriage to Miss Hetty Doran, and heiress from California with a substantial dowry. The text highlights the transfer of wealth and the management of noble houses to American women, emphasizing the financial benefits of such alliances. And then another article appears in the Morning Post which says that the wedding will be absolutely quiet, that it will take place at the St. George Church in Hanover Square, that only half a dozen close friends will be invited. 2 days later, that is last Wednesday, there was a brief announcement that the wedding had taken place and that would spend their honeymoon at Lord Backwater's estate near Petersfield. There are all notifications that appeared before the bride disappeared.
Before the what?
Before the vanishing of the lady.
When it was?
At the wedding of breakfast. To be honest, I'm a little bit confused.
Pray, perhaps we may make them less so. Good day, Lord St. Simon. Pray take the basket chair. Draw up a little to the fire and we will talk to this matter over.
A most painful matter to me, as you can most readily imagine, Mr. Holmes. I first met Miss Hetty Doran in San Francisco a year ago. We were traveling in the States. Her father was a rich man.
Now, what is your own impression as to your wife's character?
You see, Mr. Holmes, she is what we call in England a tomboy, with a strong nature, wild and free, unfettered by any sort of traditions. She is imperious volcanic, I was about to say.
Did you see Miss Doran on the day before the wedding? Was she in the good spirits?
Yes, never better. She kept talking of what we should in our future lives. Well, to tell the truth, I saw then the first sign that I had ever seen that her temper was just a little sharp.
Now, Lord St. Simon, I think that I have nearly all my data. I shall communicate with you. Have a good day, Lord St. Simon. I have already solved this riddle.
What? What did you say?
I said that I had already found a solution to this riddle.
But I heard the same thing as you.
Dear Watson, later I will come back and enlighten you with all the details.
Oh, thank you.
Please, stop. Please listen to me. I want to tell you Simon's secret. Listen,
No,
he's not
sorry,
the person.
no.
Please listen to me. Oh, I found it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lestrade. You look dissatisfied.
Yes, I feel dissatisfied. It's this infernal Saint Simon marriage case. I can make neither head nor tail of the business. I've been dragging the serpentine in search of the body Lady Saint Simon. Then they have been identified as her clothes, and it seemed to me that if the clothes were the body would not be thought of.
Have you drunk the best in the Trafalgar Square fountain?
What do you mean?
Because you have just as good a chance of finding this lady in the one as in the other.
I suppose you know all about it. I am afraid, Holmes, that you are not very practical with your deductions and your inferences. You have made 2 blunders in as many minutes. This dress does implicate Miss Flora Miller. In the dress is a pocket. In the pocket is a card case. In the card case is a note.
Let me see it. This is indeed important.
Why you are looking at the wrong side?
And over here is what appears to be a fragment of a hotel bill, which interests me deeply.
There is nothing in it. I've wasted time enough. Goodbye, Mr. Holmes, and we shall see that which gets to the bottom of this matter first.
You seem to expect company.
Yes, I'm expecting some guests.
I hear the steps.
Me too. Please welcome Mr. Lestrade and said Simon. I consider that we should wait some people.
Hello, Mr. Sorry, said Simon. I will explain all the story. Then I will tell our story right away. We with Frank met in 1981 at McQuarrie's camp, where Dad worked at the site. Frank and I were engaged, but one day Dad got rich while Frank stayed poor. And the richer Dad got, the poorer Frank got. After all, Dad wouldn't hear of our engagement lasting any longer. And they took us to Frisco. Frank didn't give up, so he followed me there, and Frank said he would go and earn his bill of money too, and would never come back for me until he got as much as that. And then I promised to wait for him until the end of time and vowed myself not to marry anyone else while he was alive. And we got married in secret from everyone. And then Frank went to see his fortune and returned to my father. The next thing I heard about Frank was that he was in Montana, then he went scouting in Arizona, and then I heard about him from New Mexico. After that, an article appeared in a newspaper about how Apache Indians attacked a mining camp, and my Frank's name was among the dead. I was very ill for several months after that. There had been no news for a year or more, so I had no doubt that Frank was really dead. Then Lord St. Simon came to Frisco and we moved to London and we got married, and Dad was very pleased and happy, but I always felt that I would never love any man in the world as much as Frank. If I had married Lord St. Simon, I would certainly have done my duty by him. I walked down the aisle with him with the intention of becoming an equally good wife to him. But we can imagine how I felt when I walked up to the altar, looked back and saw Frank standing in the first pew and looking at me. At first I thought it was his ghost, but when I looked again, he was still there. At that moment the priest's words sounded to me like a bee buzzing in my ears. I looked at him again and he seemed to me understand what I was thinking, because he put his finger to his lips, telling me to be quiet. Then I saw him scribble something on a piece of paper and realized that he was writing me a note. When I passed by him, I threw my bucket to him and he put a note in my hand when he returned the flowers. It was just a line in which he asked me to join him, and when he motioned for me to do so. Of course, I didn't doubt for a second that now my first duty was to him, and I decided to do whatever he ordered. When I returned, I told my maid about it, who knew him in California and has always been his friend. I told her not to say anything, but to pack some things and get my coat ready. I know I should have talked to Lord St. Simon, but it was terribly hard in front of his mother and all these people. I just decided to run away and explain myself later. Less than 10 minutes later, I saw Frank in the window on the other side of the street. He beckoned to me and then headed for the park. I got dressed and followed him. A woman came up and talked to me about Lord St. Simon. She said he had his own little secret before he got married, but I managed to elude her, and soon I caught up with Frank. We got in a taxi together and drove to the apartment he rented in Gordon Square, and it was my real wedding after so many years of waiting. Frank was captured by the Apaches, escaped, got to Frisco, found out that I thought he was dead, and went to England, followed me, and finally stumbled upon me the very morning I was getting married for the second time.
So, about my bride's marriage, I saw it in a paper. It gave the name and the charge.
but not where the lady lived. However, I finally found her, and we met in altar first. She was shocked at that moment, because she thought that I died. Then I gave her a letter. The next day, during the breakfast, we escaped. So I am so sorry, but we can't command our love. I really love her.
It's likely that we would have gone to Paris tomorrow, but Mr. Holmes came to us tonight, although I don't know how he found us, and he showed us that I was wrong. Then he offered to give us a chance to talk to Lord St. Simon alone, and we came right away. And I'm very sorry if I hurt you, and I hope you don't think it was slight. Sir, a public slight. I'm very angry and I have been shameful.
So you won't forgive me? Will you shake my hand before I leave? So we are going. Thank you. Goodbye.
How did you find a solution to this problem so quickly, and how were you so sure that she had someone?
The case was quite intriguing because it showed how a seemingly complicated situation could have a straightforward explanation. At first, it seemed puzzling why a lady would agree to marry and then change her mind so quickly. However, it became clear that something had happened that morning to make her reconsider. She must have seen someone, possibly an American, as she hadn't been in the country long enough for someone local to influence her so deeply. This person could have been a lover or a previous husband, given her background. The key clues were the man in the pew, the change in the bride's behavior, and her mention of the claim jumping, which hinted at a previous relationship.
How did you deduce that she was alive and they are in the hotel?
By investigating hotel bills and initials, I found the man involved and I advised them to clarify their situation with Lord St. Simon.